And we are joined now by Dr. Ryan Anderson. Thank you for being here. Senator Marco Rubio calls this a digital book burning, but of course it's 3 years late. Why now? Why do you think your book is being banned now by Amazon?
You know, it's hard to say because they haven't said anything to us. They didn't communicate to me or to the publisher before they removed the book. And once they did remove the book, we reached out to them to ask what's going on, and no response. So who knows why they've removed the book? Now, the timing is suspicious because, as you point out, it's 3 years after the book was published, but it's the very week when the House of Representatives is to vote on the so-called Equality Act. What's the Equality Act? It's the act that would add gender ideology into the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so the timing is a little suspicious, but we haven't heard a peep from Amazon on what the rationale actually is.
Right. It's so interesting. And your book, of course, is not the first book that's politically incorrect, if you will, on the transgender movement that has been banned. I want to ask you also, yesterday we saw 2 Democratic lawmakers asking the Amazon CEO to rethink conservative programs. What do you see at this point as the future for conservative books and television?
Well, so I think one thing we're going to have to think about is that it's not just big government that can be a threat to our liberties and ultimately to our flourishing, to our happiness. It appears that big tech can just be as much of a threat. And so we're going to have to think through how we as conservatives approach both the governmental side and the big business side, because both of them seem to be hostile to people with traditional American values.
Such a fascinating time. I want to ask you, too, about the Equality Act. Of course, right now, as it stands, there are no religious exemptions, so people of faith would be forced to conform to the ideas in this legislation. Are you seeing any movement on that front, or what are you looking for going forward with this act?
Well, I think the real action is going to be what happens in the Senate. I think Nancy Pelosi is just ramming this through the House of Representatives. They're not even going to have hearings or markup. The bill was introduced late last week, and they're going to vote on it on the full floor of the House later this week. And so then the question becomes, what's going to happen in the Senate? Will they abolish the legislative filibuster? And if so, will any of the Democrat members of the Senate be willing to vote against a highly ideological bill that would harm the common good, and not just on religious liberty? This bill would be terrible for secular girls, secular women. Their athletic competitions would be turned upside down. Their bathrooms, their locker rooms would no longer be private, safe places. You don't need to be religious to be threatened by what's in the Equality Act.
All right, Ryan Anderson, there's a lot going on right now. We wish you the best with your book, and thanks for coming on.
Sure thing. Thank you.